All right, well, so welcome to our little podcast we kind of have going here. You're obviously our second interviewee, I guess, because we interviewed John Ramdeen a couple weeks ago. Um, we just have a couple questions. Just want to like hear about your upcoming fight. You're obviously fighting Chris Chu on July 18th. I just wanted to ask you, do you think, this guy's 4-2? Do you think this guy is your toughest opponent yet, would you say?
No, no, I don't think so. I so honestly, my first two professional fights were my toughest fights. Um, so the first guy I fought, we were both making our pro debuts, and I beat him by unanimous decision. And then after the fight, he's 5-1 right now. I'm his only loss, and all of them are first round finishes. So he went on like a tear after I beat him. And after that fight, he had we fought in his hometown. We fought in Calgary, and we had teammates of his coming up and being like, "Hey, you might not know that, but like that guy that you just beat is really good. Like he's sparring with like the UFC athletes we got in our gym and like all that stuff." But we were both 0-0 going into the fight, so we didn't really know. But he was a very tricky striker and he's a very very tough guy to fight. He actually broke my orbital bone. That's the only strike I've gotten landed on me in like a professional fight. Like the only hard one is I had a like full 3 minutes or full 3 rounds. I was beating him up, and then like a minute left, he rolled for a heel hook, and I kicked out, and he got some space, and he threw a flying knee as I was shooting a double leg, and he cracked me with a like broke my face in three spots, and then I had to just take him down and hold him down for the last like minute. But like my eye was like completely closed, and then my second fight was against Dorian Dokai, who he's beaten a guy that fought in the UFC. He's gone to a draw with a guy that was on Contender Series, and he had a decision loss to another guy that's in the UFC right now. So he
Thank
was pretty experienced, and that was my second fight. So both those two guys are probably my hardest fights, and the last guy I fought and this guy, they're good, but like I think I fought the two toughest guys that I could fight in my first two pro fights.
For sure, for sure.
Fair enough. I was
Yeah.
also wondering, so you've had three professional fights as of yet, all at different weight classes. What weight would you say is like what fits you best, and what would you like to, keep your career? Like, what weight class is your best weight class, you think?
170 is where we're going to be
Yeah.
for UFC stuff. I walk around like 198, somewhere around there, which is honestly like where most of the welterweight guys are walking around at in the UFC. Uh, Not too many guys in Canada do like big weight cuts because they don't know how, I think, and I think they're kind of lazy. So I'm also the same way. Like I was like I don't want to cut weight at these lower levels when
Hmm.
I know I can beat the guy. And just with how many guys have pulled out of the fights and that kind of stuff, I'm like, I'd be cutting weight for nothing. I would rather just fight like the bigger guys and not have to cut weight and enjoy myself and yeah, have like a longer career because of it, because I know I can beat these guys at this level at like pretty much any weight class. So yeah, I've been willing to take fights at like 185, 205, wherever, but once we get to the tougher guys, I'll have to go 170. That's where I believe I can become like world champion at that weight.
Yeah, so this will be your third fight on like UFC Fight Pass now with like your two unified and now obviously the CFFC. And CFFC has had some great names, like Marab, Sean Brady, Jim Miller, like some greats in the sport. Do you think this could be like your kind of your big break into like a contender series or a PFL or something like that?
Yeah, I think it adds to it. For sure, fighting in unified, it's like a big thing. But what you see a lot of times is you see it's a different game down in the States. They have a bigger like variety of talent. Like unified does it really good for Canada. They have like a solid roster, and it's on UFC Fight Pass and everything. But like it's so deep the talent level down in the States that I think fighting on the American fight cards that are on UFC Fight Pass, like it shows that you're like at that level and you're not just like cherry picking your opponents. Because there are guys, if you're fighting in your hometown and you're never fighting outside of your hometown, you can kind of pick your opponents so that you're getting good stylistic matchups for you. I feel like because these promotions, they want to work with hometown guys, right? So if they're having events in Edmonton all the time and they're going to be like throwing a ton of guys at those Edmonton guys because they sell a lot of tickets, right? So you can
Mhm.
kind of pick and choose who you get to fight. I haven't really had that luxury yet because there's not a big MMA scene in Saskatchewan. But yeah, you see a lot with those hometown guys. So I feel like being willing to fight kind of in the States, in Canada, all outside of my home province, I guess. It just shows that you're kind of willing to fight anyone and you actually have that high talent level rather than like picking guys that are stylistically good for you.
Fair. I was also wondering, speaking of Canadian MMA, you're being represented by John Ramdeen, a
Yeah.
Canadian MMA broadcasting legend. What ways would you say that he's made an impact to your career?
Oh yeah, he made a big impact. So I um I was kind of stalled out for a little bit because like I said, I'm not like a hometown guy for any of these like promotions. Like they always have I'm always gonna be the I'm never gonna bring in a big draw because there's not big MMA scenes in Saskatchewan. So I always have to travel. Like the closest spot for us is Edmonton, which is like 5 hour drive. Which if I fight there, we'll pack that place because a lot of people are willing to make the drive just to come watch. But it's a little bit different than fighting in your hometown. So uh, with that, I was also really I was really good early on. Like I had a really good wrestling background, but I didn't have a ton of experience in MMA. So all the guys that had my experience level didn't want to fight me, and then all the guys that had a lot of MMA experience, they also didn't want to fight me because they're like, it's too risky. I don't want to lose to a guy that's 1-0 in MMA, but he fights like he's 7-0. Um, so what was happening is promoters also my two my first two fights were hard, so I had to wrestle him and it went to decision. And so a lot of the promoters, they're like, he's not a hometown guy. He's not super exciting. His first two fights were decisions, and nobody wants to fight him. So we were kind of stalled out for like 2 years there, where I just like sat and didn't get a fight, and I was calling guys out, and promoters were trying to make it work, but like they're like, we can only pour so much time into him because he doesn't really um, bring in a ton of money for us right now. So that's where I started kind of trying to grow my following on social media, and so that I can actually give something to these promoters and be more exciting in my fights, so that they want to work with me. And John Ramdeen came in right around that time when I was starting to do that, and he has been like pushing super hard to like get me fights. I've worked with other managements before, and the problem with them is they like a lot of the big management companies, they manage like a lot of guys, so they can only put so much effort into each individual athlete. Whereas with John, I don't know, he might have another athlete or two, but like it seems like for me, like he's putting like all of his focus in to like my career, and he's very much like when I do good, he feels like he's doing good because he's like very much a part of our team. Um, and so like having him has been like a big benefit because he's been like unified. They already had a full card in that Toronto one for my last fight, and John just like kept on them. He's like, you owe them fights. It's like I had a contract with them, and it was gonna like expire without getting the proper amount of fights. And they were like, well, we already have a full card here. We'll get him on the next one. And John's like, no, you owe him fights. You owe him fights. And then him being in their ears, like just constantly, like getting after them, like got that fight set up. So they even said they were like a lot of the other management companies, they don't want to like offend anyone. They don't want to like burn bridges or like be annoying, so they won't like push when the promotions say no. They'll just be like, okay,
Mhm.
we'll get the next one. But John's like willing to just like do whatever he can to like get me fights. So it's been a massive help.
That's awesome. And you kind of spoke a little bit about like you're a wrestling guy, right? Like you're a wrestler at
Yeah.
heart. Your brother wrestled, you've won some medals and stuff like that. I kind of have like two questions. Where did the wrestling come from? Because like you and Carson have wrestled, you've both wrestled around the world and won some championships. Is that like a family thing? And also, do you think genuinely that wrestling is the best base for an MMA fighter?
Yeah. First, wrestling, 100% best base for an MMA fighter. There's yeah, there's nothing else really comparable. Like a lot of the jiu-jitsu guys, do well when they switch over, but I think now you have to have that wrestling base because it's so hard to pick it up later in life. You have to wrestle when you're young and then switch into like all these other martial arts. All these other ones you can pick up as you're older. Wrestling, it's like it's hard to even find practices where you can work on it outside of like high school, university, that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely the best base. And for yeah, me and my brothers, it's not a family thing. So you see a lot of like you see a lot of families in wrestling that they like their dad wrestled, so now the kids have to wrestle. It wasn't like that with our family. Like my dad was a hockey player. We all played hockey growing up, and we were just big into UFC. Like as a family, like my dad watched UFC, and we watched UFC. We played UFC video games, so we would do like UFC tournaments in the front yard with like all the neighborhood kids, and it would just be like wrestling, but it would be so the rules I remember it was like you have to like make them tap out or if they like started crying then that was the end of the fight, but it was like no punches, it was just like wrestling. And so like once that came up in school, like we had like a wrestling program in our school, and once that happened we were like okay, we can like wrestle and not get in trouble at school. That's awesome. So we like it was me. I started wrestling, and then my younger brother Carson started wrestling, and then we have a third younger brother, actually McGuire. He wrestled as well. Um, Me and Carson were the ones that took it to like sort of the international level, whereas McGuire was like kind of happy just compete. He did well at provincials a couple times, but he was like to compete internationally, you have to wrestle through the summer. That's where all the international competitions are. He's like, I don't want to wrestle in the summer. He's like, I had enough of it in the school year. So, but yeah, me and Carson, we both ended up getting bronze medals at age group world championships. So I got a junior bronze world championship medal, which is under 20, and he got a under 17 bronze medal at the world championships. And his is actually a funny story because he lost in the bronze medal match, but like 6 months later, he got it retroactively because the Russian guy that beat him tested positive for steroids at the under 17 world championships, and he got banned for 4 years, and his medal got taken away. So everyone that he beat got bumped up a placing. So he ended up getting the bronze medal.
Nice. I was also wondering, you touched on this earlier about how nobody's wanting to fight you, and you're the most ducked fighter in Canada.
Yeah.
What about you specifically do you think is so not enticing? Do you think it's like how young you are? Is it your wrestling style? Like what about you is so scary to these guys, do you think?
I think it is the wrestling, especially in Canada. There's not a huge like wrestling scene in Canada. I fully believe if I was down in the States, I would have been able to get fights because a lot of the guys down there, they go into MMA after wrestling at some level, whether it's like high school or there's so many different like college wrestling levels down there. You can go like Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA, JUCO. Like there's so many different like levels that you can wrestle at college down there that like it's not easy, but it's easier than I don't know if it's easier than up here, but they just have such a deep amount of like wrestlers down there. So many guys wrestle in high school, and then they have so many opportunities for you to wrestle in university that they have a lot of wrestlers down there. And a lot of those guys go into MMA, and so they're not scared to fight a wrestler. Whereas up in Canada, there's not many wrestlers turned MMA fighters, so they are scared to fight a wrestler at any level, let alone a wrestler that's medaled at the world championships. Yeah, so I think they're just scared of the wrestling, and yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it because I know some other wrestlers that have had a similar problem, and yeah, there's the only fix for it is going down to the States, I think.
Fair enough. And you're from Flin Flon, Manitoba. You train out of Saskatchewan. Like, how do you think like your Canadian, I guess, like heritage kind of shapes how you are as like a person and like a fighter? Because you rock the stash, you kind of got the curly mullet going on. How would you say that kind of like shapes who you are being a Canadian?
Yeah, definitely. It that's the look up here in Canada. I feel like there's quite a
Oh yeah.
few Canadian fighters with that look, the mustache and the mullet. So yeah, I try to rep that as much as I can. I walk out to Last Saskatchewan Pirate. That's my walkout song. Yeah, try to rep it as much as you can because that is a big part of like fighting. Like I watched GSP when I was a kid and I was like, oh, like Canadian guys are doing this and like winning titles. I was like, oh, I can do this. So I want to do like the same kind of thing. I want like people from like the prairies, like Manitoba, Saskatchewan, to see me and be and also the guys from up north as well. Like I'm from like Flin Flon, Manitoba, like small town, like 6 hours north of Saskatoon. And I want people from small towns in like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, wherever to be like, oh, these guys are doing it as well. Like you can do it from not a major center and still make it to the UFC and do all that stuff. So that's what I try to represent when I'm out there.
Fire. I was just gonna ask. I know there's a lot of fighters that like to kind of map out their career, like trajectory and whatnot. So, do you have a sort of desired career path, like for your next few fights, like whether that's continuing with CFFC or Unified, maybe even like Dana White Contender Series? Do you have like a path forwards?
Yeah, so my path, I didn't really have too much of a path until recently. I feel like the ball's kind of starting to roll in the direction of we're able to get more fights going, so the ball's kind of rolling now. We got this fight with CFFC, so that would make me 4-0, and then I would like to fight for a title for Unified in October. I believe that's the one in Edmonton, so that would make me 5-0 with a title and a major uh, promotion on UFC Fight Pass. And then I would like to do one more fight. I want to get a second belt. So that's my plan is win a belt with Unified, get a second belt early next year, um, and then Contender Series. So that's the plan that I got right now. Is I want to be 7-0 with two belts, go to Contender Series, win the Contender Series fight. That's my ideal plan, and I feel like I can do that because I fought at so many different weight classes that I feel like I can go get after two belts in two different weight classes pretty easily.
That's awesome, man. And you kind of spoke a bit earlier about like your social media presence. Do you think that like I even saw on your Instagram story recently that your goal was to hit 10,000 followers by the end of the year. You've already hit that. Do you think that's like important, especially in today's kind of fighting scene, is to grow your media presence as well as your obviously like your fighting career?
Yeah, it's honestly like outside of just like working on your fighting skills, that is the most important thing. Like um having people wanting to watch you fight is such a big thing in this like profession, I guess you'd call it. Uh yeah, like you have to be a good fighter, but if nobody wants to watch you fight and promoters don't want to book you because nobody wants to see you fight, then it's very hard to get fights because uh yeah, I don't know. It's weird because I come from a wrestling background where it's just like you don't have to have any media presence. You just show up and you wrestle whoever's good. But with fighting, it's like a business. So you gotta work on that social media game. You gotta get people interested. Um, and yeah, that was a big thing that I started this year is just posting more. Like you'll figure it out as you go. Like I had no idea what I was doing at the beginning. Just watch what the other people are posting and kind of try to follow that same kind of thing, but apply it to yourself. And my goal was 10K by the end of the year. I was at like 3K at the start of the year, and yeah, we already hit that. And it's just from just posting more. I was like, I'm gonna try to post like 5 times a week, just something that's like sustainable and doesn't like burn you out, but like something that
Mhm.
you can that people like remember you. Because I remember when I was just starting fighting, and I had a fight and then I was like waiting for my next one and nobody was willing to fight me. And I would see people in real life and they'd be like, "Oh, are you still fighting?" And they'd be like, "You should post more about it." Because like they're like, "I completely forgot that you were even still fighting." So just like posting multiple times a week keeps you in people's brains. So they're like, "Oh, I wonder when his next fight is." And then people start to kind of become fans of it because they're like, "This guy should be fighting." Maybe I'll like drop some comments on the promotion and be like, "Get this guy a fight. He's been like waiting," like that kind of stuff.
You mentioned growing up in small town Canada.
Yeah.
I was wondering in Canadian MMA, outside of, once George St. Pierre retired, there seems to be a bit of a drop in notable names in Canadian MMA. But now there seems like there's been a resurgence with like Mike Malott or Aaron Jeffrey and PFL, all these names. What do you think? What do you think it has led to this kind of resurgence out of nowhere of Canadian MMA?
Um, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not overly sure. I wonder if it's got something to do with like there's a couple major organizations in Canada that like can get guys to the UFC that are on like UFC Fight Pass. And I wonder if it's just got something to do with that connection to UFC Fight Pass that guys can kind of like have. Okay, so there's like I think there's two promotions that are on UFC Fight Pass, so they know that if they're fighting in these promotions and they're doing well, then they have like a sort of like a straight shot to the UFC. Whereas for a while there, it was kind of just like fight on all these random promotions, and if you get noticed or if you have an in, then you get to the UFC. So it's kind of like you were just going about it blindly. Whereas like now it's like, okay, win like 5 or 6 or 7 fights in a row on one of these promotions and you're there. So people have something to like shoot towards.
So it's just like
Could
a
be
bit more,
something to do with
it's a
that.
bit more accessible.
I think so. It could be something to do with that. And also, yeah, just the internet makes it a little bit easier to for them to keep an eye on everything. But I honestly have no idea. I haven't been around the sport in Canada for like that long to really like see how it was before. But yeah, it's definitely like we got more guys coming in now. Part of me also wonders if it's just like the UFC trying to like uh, broaden out to like different parts of the world. You can see them putting more effort into like the Mexican fighters, and they just went to where was it? Was it Kazakhstan? They just went to something like
Yeah.
that. So they're starting to try to like work on each individual country. So I wonder if that's kind of like part of that.
And just one more question from me. When it's all said and done, let's say like 20 years down the road, what do you want fans to remember you for? Like when they think of Hunter Lee, what do you want them to think of?
Oh, that's a good question. So I've thought about this a decent amount. Just sort of that legacy that you leave behind. So when I was kind of getting started with this, I was like, so I knew that I wanted to be a fighter. I knew that I wanted to be like a world champion. But I started like looking deeper into it. I was like, why do I want to be this world champion? Is it completely what's it called? Like for selfish reasons? Like, do I want to be a world champion so that I could be like famous and like everyone knows me and that kind of stuff? And I was like, that's not like a good enough reason to chase after this goal with like my entire life, basically, like put my entire life into this goal. That's not a good reason. Um, so my main goal with this career is to one, like inspire people the way that I was inspired to show them that there's like more. If you're coming from a smaller community, there's like more out there. You can do whatever you set your mind to. You just got to like go after it. And two is like once I get to the level where I am like world champion or like in the UFC, my goal is to like give back to the community in various ways. Um, so I'm like a teacher. I got my like education degree. So I did that because I really love like coaching. So I want to like get into coaching in some way or maybe do like my own MMA promotion somewhere in Saskatchewan if that hasn't been set up by now because I was like it'd be really nice to have a platform for all these local guys that have to travel all over the place to just be able to show what they can do in their home province. So yeah, I haven't really like fully nailed down what I'm going to do, but um, the reason why I'm chasing this is because I feel like I can give back in a way by chasing this. Like I don't care about like the fame or whatever. I just want to have a platform to give back to the younger athletes and that kind of stuff.
That's so
I
awesome,
think
man. That's so
I think
cool.
that's very admirable. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you can't like I fully believe that like if you chase after a goal for purely selfish reasons, just to be like, I want fame, I want like just a bunch of money, like you're gonna be even if you can do it, you're going to be kind of unhappy in the end, right? Like you have to have like a bigger picture goal. I believe like the reason we're here is to give back in some way, whether that's like just to your like kids or like to your community or whatever you can do. I feel like I have this gift of being able to fight really well. And I need now my job is to figure out a way to build a platform to be able to give back so that I can feel good like long term, not just like in the moment. Yeah.
That's awesome. Ben, did you have any more questions?
I think I'm all out.
Well, Hunter, again, thank you so much for showing up and just being here. We can't wait to watch your fight on July 18th on UFC Fight Pass against Chris Chu. We'll be cheering you on from Ontario. So yeah, we hope you any predictions on how you're gonna win?
Um, I would say late first round knockout
Nice.
or early second round knockout. Those would be my
Nice.
predictions.
Get the
Awesome,
big
Yeah.
man.
hunter celebration.
Yeah, yeah, I gotta do it now. I got new shorts for this one. I got the leopard print, but I'm doing a snow leopard since we're
Ooh,
down in Florida for
Ooh,
this one.
that's sick.
okay, okay.
That's fire. Well, hopefully
Yeah,
the new
yeah,
nickname does you well, man, and we can't wait to watch you.
yeah, yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a good day, man.
Yeah, you too.